Hi ladies. So once you have your pie piece fully colored in, what I want you to do is look it over and think about if there's any way you can add more detail to it to kind of improve it. And specifically, you can start painting on details. Like once you've filled in your colors to your shapes, you can go into certain areas and try and zoom in here. You can add a little more detail, make things just have a little bit more interest. I'm going to make this little one pot it's a little bit larger with its rain, and I'm also going to, it's a little bit better. And then, just because I have the time, let's drop the opacity down to 50 on this black and add a little shadow. So you get the idea. You can just go back in, add some details, make things just a little bit more interesting. Not chaotic and not overly done, but just a little more than just flat colors everywhere. So once that part's done, the next thing you do, so you have your artwork completely colored in, you've paused and you've taken some time to add some detail, and now what you're going to do is you're going to group everything together. So hit V on your keyboard, go to your selection tool, and you're going to make a selection over everything. Make sure you grab your entire pie piece. You're going to go up to your menu bar to Object and to Group. You're going to do that one more time. Object, and mine is grayed out so I know it worked. Sometimes it takes 2 tries. You want to do that because that way when you start moving stuff, all your paint marks will move with everything else. So you've now just kind of like locked everything together. So you can move it, but it is all going to stay together. Nothing will come apart. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to our layers. You're going to make sure that this one is called layer 1. So you double click here. You can title the name of your layer. What we're going to do though is we're going to hide this for a second, lock it and hide it, and then go to new layer. And here you're going to make a circle template. And this is what you do to make sure that your pie pieces fit in and are the right size. And what you do is you basically just make a circle that is going to be 15 inches by 15 inches. So and make sure you do that by holding down Shift, going on your ellipse tool, picking the circle, dragging out a circle, and see how this dialog box tells me when I'm at 15? It says 15, 07, 03, 15 inches. And I also want to make sure this is centered. So if I go to my selection tool, it actually tells me that I'm centered right there. I'm going to put it down just a little bit. You can see that my artboard is 17 by 17. So if you make a 15-inch circle and it looks different on your artboard looks smaller or larger, it's probably because your artboard is not the right size. So make sure your circle is the right size. Also for now, make sure your circle is a see-through fill and a black stroke. And once we have that done, we're going to pop out our rulers and make some little divides on this. So let's go to, my rulers are not visible right now, so I'm going to go to View and Menu. I'm going to go down to Rulers. I'm going to do Show Rulers. And you probably remember this from symmetry, but in case you forget, what you're going to do is make a mark at the halfway point. So if we have a 15-inch circle, the halfway point is 7.5. It's really hard to see the numbers up here, but that's the halfway point of the circle. The halfway point of the paper is going to be, since paper 17, oh no, 17 divided by 2, 8.5. So you're going to zoom in to here where you can see it's 8.5. Make sure you're on, like not below the bar, make sure you're on the ruler. Double click, you'll get your marker. That's how you know your circle's cut in half. And then same thing over here. And go to 8.5. It's a little hard to see unless I zoom in. Looks like it's right here, because if this is 10, this is 9, this would be 8.5. Okay, so now I have a circle that is cut in half. And let me just double check to make sure that my circle is actually totally centered, because it looks like it's kind of not. There we go. Now my circle's centered. And the next thing I want to do to make my little template is I want to go to my line segment tool. I'm going to click on this. Again, make sure my stroke is black. And I'm going to go to the center of my circle, and I'm going to draw a line that goes out to the corner. But to make sure it's a proper 45-degree angle, what I'm going to do is hold down the thing that makes everything perfect. I'm going to hold down Shift, draw a line from the center. You can see this getting me a perfect 45-degree angle. Now, I don't really have to do this for each one, because once I have a pie piece that fits in this space, then I know it's going to fit in all the other ones. So you really only need the line segment in one quadrant. If you like to have line segments for all of them, if you want a perfectly divided circle, you can do that, except now that you have a line segment down here, if you click to start a new line segment, it's going to interact with this one. So if you want to make a second line segment, you want to go to the corner, hold down Shift, go to the center. You can actually go all the way through if you want to. So that's the way you can divide up your pie piece. I'm not going to divide it up anymore because this is fine for what we're going to do. And now what I want to do is make sure that this gets locked. And I'm going to title this template. And what I want to do is make sure that it's below everything else, because I want to be able to see it below all my pie pieces. So I'm going to take it and drag it. And now it's below everything. So now if I make my pie piece visible, I can see how much larger it is than my circle. The next thing you're going to do after the circle's been made is you're going to unlock your pie piece. You're going to select your pie piece. And you're going to start making it smaller to fit into one of those sections. Now what you want to do, because you've worked so hard in the circle, or this pie piece, is you want to make sure that you don't change the proportions of it. You don't want to warp it. And warping it, again, would be taking a corner and dragging it without holding down Shift. So if I hold Shift, it goes back to perfect. Let's see how I can get it to rotate. This is going to take a little while. And you can either be slightly inside the pie piece like this one is, but I know that I want this bottom part to fill in this whole corner. It's not going to do it perfectly right now. I'm going to have to go in with my anchor points and make adjustments. But I want to make sure that everything kind of fits as best it can without going over the edge of that pie piece or that template. And this will just take a little bit of push and pull. Oop, I think that got misproportioned. So let me pull that. Do that one again. Make it a little larger. Rotate it. So now it's fitting in there pretty good. It looks like it gets close to the line over here, and it means maybe I'll angle it a little bit more. So take your time with this part, and that's probably pretty good because now I have a little bit of space on either side. And once I know it's a good size, the next thing I do is, this is selected, so what I want to do now is do Command C for copy, new layer, call this one, double click on it, call that one too, lock number 1, and then do Command V. And now you can see I'm on a different selection color, I'm on a different layer, and now I start fitting this one into the next area. I know it's the right size if it fits in one piece or fits in one section and my sections are divided evenly. It should fit in every section pretty much just fine and pretty much the same way. So again, this takes a little bit of time to zoom in, to look at it closely, and you'll want to take your time with this. Let's rotate this just a little bit, move it over. Now you have two that are next to each other, so you really get a sense of how your piece interacts and also anything that needs to get adjusted. So specifically, if you have a design that goes to the edge of your pie piece, what you can do now is make adjustments. Now that you see how it fits, you can adjust it so that when you do the rest of your paste, you're not having to change all of them. You can just change one now and it'll kind of fit a little bit better for everything. So this is where we have to work on anchor points. And if I zoom in, I want this to not have all this gap down here. So this means I have to go to my direct selection tool. That's A on the keyboard. And I have to click on this. And I actually would probably need to move this so it's not overlapping. This is not perfectly positioned right now. But just so you get the demonstration of the anchor points, let's take this anchor point, drag it all the way down the center. And here's also what we're going to do. We're going to take this anchor point up here, actually maybe this one, drag it to the line. Now, all these anchor points here I could actually delete because I don't need them. I don't need to move every single one. So I can go to my direct selection tool and I can, actually I'm sorry, go to my pen tool. And we haven't used the pen tool yet, so I know you're not familiar with it, but if you go to the pen tool and go to delete anchor points, see how I have a minus sign right here? Delete, delete. And I can keep getting rid of them. That's a handle. That's a handle. That's an anchor point. I'll zoom in a little bit more so I can see all of them. Okay, and now what I can do is I can go back to A, to my direct selection tool. I can take this one, same thing, pull this one down, because this is the other part of that line. And same with my blue. If I don't want all that black. Let's see. Move that down a little bit. The black's covered. Let's move this one over. Actually move you down here. So you kind of get it. It can go a little slowly, but again, this is the kind of thing that I think is actually super fun. I bet some of you don't hate it. And once you have your anchor points moved on one, again, it's going to be a lot easier for the rest of your copy paste. And you can clean it up so it's not so much of a thick black line, but basically what you'll have is if you have a stroke, there's going to be anchor points on the inside and outside of your stroke, and then your inside color shape will also have anchor points. So if you have anything like an ocean wave, and I'd want this to be cleaned up. Let's see, all the way to the end. Oh, if you don't double click, it'll drag the whole thing. So if I'm going to double click just to drag that one anchor point. View. That's looking a little bit better. I'd probably do the same thing up here, where I'd want them to be at the same height so that they're not looking so off. Okay, but I think you guys get it. So now that you know how to line them up, you now would take this one that's been a little bit altered. You would select it with your selection tool. So selection tool, so the whole thing's been selected. Do Command C, lock layer 2, make layer 3. And it's really important that each pie piece is on its own layer, because if they're not on their own layer, it's really hard to go back in and fix any mistakes. It's also really hard to go back in and change something because it'll grab everything next to it. So critical that each pie piece is on its own layer. So if I did Command V, oops, 3, and now back to layer 3, and Command V. And again, just take it, put it into the right position. So we'll end this part of the tutorial here. I'll show you how to make a background color, especially how to make some gradients in the next tutorial. And then we'll also show you how to delete everything and how to delete the pie piece, the template, and then how to finish submitting it. Okay, good luck, ladies. Can't wait to see what you do.